It was the 90s, the world was going digital, and I was fast on my way to becoming goth. If we're in the same age bracket, we are kind of like what the internet likes to call the zennial. It's very confusing. Am I Gen X? Am I millennial? But being born in 1979, that kind of places me on the cusp of being a Gen Xer or a zennial, depending upon who you ask. So as zennials, we're like these liminal creatures born somewhere between rotary phones and smartphones. And we were raised by MTV because we were there for its inception as little kids, but then emotionally shaped by the sound of dial-up modems. Tell me that you still don't get that pang of excitement when you hear that sound. During such a transitional era, it was strange sort of holding on to those aspects of the 80s that raised me in a world made up of dial-up cables. It was equal parts beautiful, confusing, exciting, but glitchy. But here we are. It's 2025, and you have many new people finding their way into the subculture, kind of screaming into the void of places like TikTok. Millions of people claiming they are it, that they know everything about it, and it says so on the cover, and you're drawn in, only to find it's like opening a can of tinned peaches and finding beans. This can is a liar. My teenage years are now vintage, and I still wear black. Not because I'm mourning, but because it's me. And also it really hides tea stains. So I want to talk about the simplicity of the 90s goth. At least it's simplistic by today's standards. By the modern lens, it's considered very much simplistic. The irony of it is that compared to the sort of digital adaptation in the modern world, there's nothing simplistic about it. But it's all shaped around how incredibly low that bar was in the 90s when we sort of lived it. And given that very low bar, what was considered normal and abnormal would draw audible gasps simply for wearing a black t-shirt. I'm not kidding. To the shadowed corners of record shops, the smell of cloves just sort of swirling through the air, and the comforting weight of thick vintage velvet in sweltering summer heat, I have no idea what we were thinking. I was a goth. Still am, but I was a 90s goth. And with each decade kind of came its own little charms, but when it came to the 90s, that was a world all on its very own. Let's talk about the aesthetic. Our armor was velvet and lace, mostly thrift store finds and a bit of DIY trial and error, some despair, but in good ways. Combat boots were the shoe of choice, but unfortunately to the mere mortal such as us, it really came down to accessibility and financial access. So could you find it? Could you afford it? And combat boots was usually the way to go because it was the easiest. But believe me, we wanted the real deal. We wanted the Penanglin buckle strap boots. We wanted the pikes. We wanted all of that. But you did what you could. And once things such as Platform Mary Jane started making their appearance in sort of the normie stores, we bought them up. And things like hosiery that was either fishnets or multiple pairs of ripped tights kind of pulled up and layered over each other. And it was like little simple touches like this that gave us that sense of completion. We'd often find ourselves at the mall, but it was always in search of black. But for the most part, we scavenged. Lipsticks in shades of midnight wine or the ever popular sort of brownie red. Chokers tied against our throats like secret oaths, purchased from Petco. Dyed our hair with manic panic or punky colors and whatever colors that nature did not sanction. But somehow, all of us, at some point or another, would miraculously land on black. And the soundtrack to all of it that was forever present just sort of made everything seem like it was a movie. We danced in cathedrals of bass and fog, where Sisters of Mercy sort of blended into Corpus Delicti, and every lyric felt like scripture, even if it wasn't in English. We memorized it anyway. Sometimes I had no idea what we were saying. And even then, MTV still played music, and when it didn't, we burned CDs. Or off to that sacred, crackling cassette tape that we'd have at the ready when we're listening to radio stations waiting for a song to come on just to hit record really fast. Bands were not brands, they were lifelines. We'd have our music recommendations and sort of whispered secrets down the record store aisles, and some people were happy to share, and then others guarded it because they did not want you to know. I hated them. Discovery for almost every single thing that we held sacred was not easy. It came with it a lot of work and a lot of effort. And that's exactly why that it always meant more. It was something that we never took for granted. But again, fast forward to today, The boots still fit, but the world feels much louder and faster, and it's kind of as if all of that mystery has been scrubbed by pixels. We live in an age where almost anything can be bought, but very little can be felt, and actually that is something that is very much encouraged, which is such a terrible waste, I think. When you exist in a digital world and you sort of lack the ability to just see the implications of your own words, good or bad, I think with that comes with it a sense of apathy. You know, in the modern digital world of social media, people strive for perfection and recognition rather than to connect and to be understood and to understand others and to learn about other people. The art of connection was huge back then. And sometimes I find myself chasing ghosts. I want to try to rebuy all of the pieces from my youth that brought me joy. Rebuy the boots, rebuy that Angel Dreams perfume oil, which I can't find anywhere, the coffin purse or the begotten dress. But it's not about the stuff. It's about reclaiming that feeling, that sacred sense of being other, but in a sort of magical way, not a divisive one, and finding others like you. It's that feeling of finding beauty in darkness and power in difference. It's about seeing yourself for the first time mirrored in the moonlight in your first sort of application of goth makeup and clothing, and not feeling afraid, but feeling free. To be goth in the 90s was to find poetry in decay, to find music in silence, an identity in the cracks of the mainstream, right where they couldn't find us and didn't want to. Good. So I'm going to end this in this space, but if you come with me, I'm going to take you to a sacred place, and that is my closet. So my closet is not just a room full of clothes and things. It's a reflection of who I am, and every hanger tells a story. Everything is a part of my history. It's kind of a reflection of who I am and all of the bits and pieces that I fought to reclaim, that I lost over the years. I realized, kind of looking back, that there have been many incarnations of me throughout my life where I've just really tried to find myself, and I found myself everywhere, all over. And I lived a life, and unfortunately, moving a lot, you lose things along the way, things that were sacred to you, and before you realize it, as you lose things bit by bit, it turns into quite a lot of things, and you wonder where they are. So I worked really hard to reclaim as much of the stuff as I can. Over the years, as you get older, the world kind of asks you to evolve and to assimilate, and to some degree, it's kind of to be expected. You know, you go from your almost childlike ways and rebellious sort of looks, and you streamline it a little bit. You take it to a more adult, refined quality, to a degree, while maintaining your own sense of identity. But it was never about shedding all of those layers of lace and vintage and just sort of take it off like a costume after a play. Because like many of us out there, we never stopped hearing the music through that fog. We never stopped searching eBay at like 2 a.m. for that begotten dress or that much elusive, now incredibly expensive because it's a rare find, coffin-heeled boot with the square toe and the weird pilgrim buckle. Loved those. Could never afford them. And I never stopped dreaming about the Alchemy Gothic pendant that I got when I was 16. It was a rose, and it had this sort of cross behind it. And I remember I used to draw it all of the time, and my friend Dawn got it tattooed on her. So that tattoo is probably the only physical memory I have of that pendant. Forever searching for it. But again, it's not about the objects, it's about reclaiming that feeling that comes along with it. So I'm going to take you to my closet, and I'm going to kind of introduce you to all of those different parts of me, what I've reclaimed over the years. And we're also going to have a look at really what it meant to kind of go through the simplicity of being a 90s goth and see the looks that drew audible gasps from people and got you judged as a devil worshiper, and show you how incredibly mild those truly were. And we're going to have a little bit of a try-in because I do have lots of pieces from the 90s and other bits and pieces that very much resemble that. But I thought it would be fun to kind of go through and maybe inspire some discovery of your own and looks to put together. This bag I got my very first day of high school. In the 9th grade, it was 1994, and this bag came from the Gap. Things back then were remarkably well made, because compared to now, this would not still be intact. I could kill somebody with this. And even on the inside, it's very basic. There's my lip liner. This bag came from the Gap, of all places. Actually, during that period, the Gap was very, very popular, and a lot of people shopped in that store. I didn't personally like it. It was very plain, a lot of denim, but I liked a lot of their accessories, and I really did like this bag quite a lot. And surprisingly, it held a lot of my books. But something really funny about this bag is, well, not funny, it upset me at the time, but I remember I left it in the cafeteria, and I ran back to get it, and it was gone. So I would say halfway into my school year, this bag was stolen from me. And miraculously, I found it on Poshmark a few years ago, and it came from New York. So this very well could actually be my bag from the 90s that was taken from Sachem's high school cafeteria, whoever you are that took it. Have it back now. I know many of you are going to look at this jacket and think one thing, and I'm going to say it after I show you. Nancy from The Craft. I had this in the 90s, and I wore this almost every day, and it was a very popular kind of jacket because it was just seen as sort of a raincoat or a rain slicker for other people, but it was black PVC, which was an entirely different kettle of fish for us. So I'm going to on. I'm very much aware of the volume of this jacket and my mic on my chest here. So before I kind of pull it over, I want to say that something like this was less about rebellion and more about representation. It was about kind of being a statement as to who you were. And that's really what this is. It spoke to us, spoke to our personality. And a lot of people saw things like this, a simple black PVC jacket, and they took it as an affront to who they were. They saw it as an insult or sort of middle finger in their face. It wasn't about them, but damn it, did they love to make it about them. So. The only statement this is making now is that it is mine and you can't have it. This dress is made by Begotten, and you can find Begotten patterns now where you can make these yourself from scratch, but you can see the label Begotten. This is one of the dresses that I wanted very, very badly, and I wasn't able to afford. There were a few other things that I was able to get. I was very young when dresses like these were popular, and even for the time they were quite expensive. They were anywhere between $100 and $200, and it's not like somebody between the ages of 14 and 16 can afford them unless your parents are loaded, which mine were not. And I did have a few Begotten pieces, got them on sale or got them for like my birthday or Christmas with money that I'd saved up from family. And this is something that I really coveted and I wanted so bad. You would find in stores like Religious Sex, which was one of my favorite stores. So the thing about goth fashion in the 90s is something like this, for example. Very dramatic, very vampiric, but these were one of the things that you saved for your nights out, like a club night or a concert, because during the day, your regular goth day wear was a lot more laid back and subdued. You didn't have to be dressed like this for yourself to be seen by the public as a goth and recognized as a goth by other goths, because, like I said, the bar was so incredibly low that it didn't take much for others to just sort of clutch their pearls or say, hey, you're one of us. No in between. This one is a reclaim. This is one I found on Poshmark, and I wore this to London After Midnight in 1997 at the Angel Orson Sands Foundation. And I did a video with this one before, but it came from Hot Topic when they sold Morbid Threads, and it was actually very good. But here's the bodice. It came in different colorways, but this is the exact one I had, and with the skirt to match. I was so excited to have this back in my presence that I wanted to just sort of protect it as much as I possibly could, because it was like an old friend coming home. And I love it so much. And I'm glad that it's back home with me. And once again, something that I will never let go. If somebody can help date this one for me, that would be amazing, because I remember seeing this dress in a goth night called The Bank, and I looked for it for years and I didn't know who made it. And it's almost identical to the one that I saw and coveted so much. So it was made by Le Chateau, but I'm going to give you a little glimpse here. As you can see, it has this incredible embellishment down the front. It laces all the way down, and the chest has this beautiful embellishment. And it's a sweetheart neckline, but not overly sweetheart, because that could be a little bit too much, a little bit overkill. But I really loved this one, and I wanted it so bad. And I'm so glad that I found it, because just look at it. Look at this. I'm going to pick some pieces out right now of what was considered kind of over-the-top goth fashion that is going to make you scratch your head, but I'm hoping is a little bit inspiring, because a lot of people, they don't like to get completely dressed up, and there is this kind of mentality on the internet where you have to look like the traddest of trad, and you have to go over the top and glam and just utterly dark and macabre. But it's not necessary. It's not a requirement. And there are in-betweens. And it was always something that I called the standard goth. And that's what I'm going to show you. So here's one piece. A simple velvet button-down top. That's it. Ooh, but what would happen if you had the audacity to pair this black velvet button-down top with a black skirt? Oh my God. The absolute terror that would be afflicted upon society, parents shielding their children so that you did not lure them into your cult. Mind you, nowadays, that look would not be something out of place to see on a librarian. But back then, devil worshiper. Oh, how times have changed. Let's have a fashion show. It is hardly the ensemble that screams, hide your children. Or the alternative, open. The collared shirt was actually pretty common back then, like along with a goth look. You either wore it buttoned up or open with something else under it. But I think probably by today's standards, it would kind of be considered almost corporate goth in a way. But let's not forget, this definitely got the looks. Still, decades later, one of my favorite looks, and once the weather starts getting colder again, this loud but favorite jacket will definitely be worn. This was such a popular look in the 90s. This is a true vintage 90s baby doll dress with your mesh top underneath. It was such a popular look and universal, because preps, goths, we all adapted it to our own style. But you could not miss the goth staple, the blazer. It went with absolutely everything, and you found your holy grail if you found a blazer in velvet. And this is one I found here, another vintage find. I love thrifting. Did I tell you I love thrifting? But yes, one of my vintage scores, but this is a very popular outfit you would see in the 90s, and I think it's still classic today. I don't like that open. So another popular outfit that you would see is the brocade skirt. You would have these in so many different colors, but high-waisted brocade skirt, mesh top, either cropped or longer tucked in, and this was another popular look in the 90s. Simple, classic. My fun new wireless microphone died, so now I come to you on my wired headset. And yes, I still have one of these post-1998. Don't judge. So in this portion, we're going to talk about what did the 90s smell like. This is something very interesting, because just as people kind of had that rebellion toward the mainstream with regards to fashion and music, there was also that sense when it came to your sense of smell. Some people rebelled in very offensive sort of ways, and I remember this very, very distinctly from high school, because I had many boyfriends who rebelled by way of body odor. They didn't wash their clothes, and I had one boyfriend who said, quote unquote, he didn't shower because water hurt, and believe me, when he took off his pants, they stood up on their own. Horrifying. Whether you're alternative or part of the goth subculture like myself, every little thing about you was connected to your identity in some way. It spoke to others, and it was how you presented yourself to others and to the world, and it kind of told a story about you. So when it came to perfumes, it wasn't something that you wore, it's something that revealed you. At some point, essential oils and scented oils made their way into our lives, which was an amazing departure from the onslaught of just alcohol-based perfumes of the time, which was highly floral and migraine-inducingly sweet. And this was a little bit before Bath and Body Works kind of created the cucumber melon scent that dominated the era. But before the cucumber melon, there came the essential oils. And this was something that I took to very much. And the goth subculture definitely took to. But if you want to know what the 90s smelled like, it would be clove, Egyptian musk, amber, patchouli, nag champa incense, a little bit of ashtray because a lot of people smoked. I would say very much indicative of going into a record store mixed with metaphysical shop. That's very much what I think of when I think of 90s smells. And I try not to think of the grunge guys that refuse to wash their pants or shower. Everyone had their signature scent, whether it was amber, patchouli, sandalwood, Egyptian musk. It was never flowery, it was never like overpowering, but it evoked emotion. This was something very important. Back then, perfumes quite literally punched you in the face. They were that strong. But when it came to perfume oils, it was more like a quiet remembrance. It was like a dark imprint. And when you left, rather than leaving something very alcohol-based and oppressive behind, it was almost like a ghost. Tucked inside tiny little glass vials with a little roller ball, and we carried them around like little talismans, and we would just apply like crazy. My scent was Angel Dreams, and it was by a company called Airs, and I've never been able to find it since. They tried to remake it, but it's in no way the same, and I think that's probably how it should remain in memory and not in any way overused. But unfortunately, I can't wear perfumes because perfumes for me, they will cause migraines. So I've always just worn essential oils. And at the moment, I kind of go between amber and Egyptian musk. And those are kind of my go-tos. And patchouli every now and again, but I like to mix them. It's always going to be oils, and I always have to make sure that I stick to woody smells like sandalwood, again, amber, Egyptian musk, that kind of thing. When it goes to candles as well, I have to make sure that they're going to be more earthy scents, because anything that is flowery, anything that is sweet, and I am in bed with a heating pad on my head praying to the gods to just take my pain out of my skull. It's horrible. I've always seen these beautiful scents come up in my feed, and the way that they're represented and the way that they're discussed, they talk about them in a way that just is so indicative of the 90s and things that I would love, but they're perfumes, they're not oils, and I'm scared of them because anybody that's ever suffered a migraine and you know one of your triggers, you're not going to risk it. And I didn't want to. So I've always been afraid. One of those perfume brands that have been coming up a lot in my feed was Fulton and Roark. And I kept finding myself on their website, looking up all of their scents. And I know that a lot of them had really spoke to me, specifically the ones that contain bergamot. And I know that I said I use perfume oils quite a lot, but something that I also use quite a lot is perfume balms, which is essentially kind of the same thing. But Madame Scodioli on Etsy is a seller that I've always gone to when it came to my perfume balms, and my favorite one is Illyria. Illyria is my favorite, and then there's Coven. Coven is a little bit more cinnamony, but Illyria was very much like Earl Grey tea, and I loved it. And I still have it, and I still use it. So when Fulton and Roark contacted me and wanted me to do a review and send me their perfumes for free, and they're a little bit pricey, because I remember thinking, okay, I'm scared because I don't want to get a migraine, and I also don't want to spend that much money to get a migraine, but I'm willing to take one for the team. I'm going to test these out. I'm going to let you know exactly what they smell like, and most importantly, I'm going to let you know if it throws me down with a migraine, because this is something that's very important. I know a lot of you are smell sensitive. When they reached out initially, I was very interested, but I also was very apprehensive, and I immediately explained my sensitivities to perfume and the reasons why, and also the scents that I gravitate toward because of it. And they immediately gave me recommendations based on that, and they sent me these 3, which they felt would be the most compatible. So I'm going to go through them with you right now. readjusted. So this one is Narada, and I have to spray it so I can smell it. I'm scared. The first thing that I smell is pepper. You get the pepper almost right away. I'm definitely pleasantly surprised by this because anything that has come in a spray bottle and is perfume has always knocked me on my ass, but this is going to be oddly specific. This smells like Salem, Massachusetts to me. Not so much the way that it physically smells, but the spirit of it. Does that make sense? I can smell almost like chai tea. It's like a mixture of chai tea, pepper, and then you get sort of, I don't get the bergamot at all, but I get like a black tea from it. So it kind of reminds me, if you're going for something that is autumn, tea shop, Salem, this one. It's also sort of a woodiness to it. I like this one. Again, I will keep you posted on what my head feels like. Okay, moment of truth. The next one is, this is Mahana, and it's a bright, refreshing blend of pomelo, coriander, and green leaves. So I'm guessing it's going to be kind of citrusy. I can't spray the same place, so I'm going to go a little further up on my arm. Oh wow, I was right. This one has a very clean scent. I get the citrus immediately. What did they say is in this? That's Narada. Okay. This is a very clean scent, and I get the citrus and the leaves immediately. It smells very verdant, and it smells very citrusy, and it smells very fresh and very clean. It reminds me of a very high-end spa. And next we have Caglioce, mellow melange of smooth rum, tobacco leaves, and sandalwood. This sounds like one of the things that I would go for. Like, this is sort of one of the scents that I would gravitate toward. I can't tell if I just started to like it because it's safe or if I genuinely do like it, but it is a comforting smell to me. But we'll see. I'm gonna have to probably spray my other arm with this. Oh, I don't even think I have to spray it. It smells, let me see if I'm right. I make this almond cake and it smelled almost exactly like it just from the nozzle. Just spray again. Oh wow. This is, so what hits you almost immediately is a sweet smell, but it's not an oppressively sweet smell. It's almost like almond. And I love how I'm sitting like this. I don't know what I'm gonna stop sitting like that. I think it's a mixture of the rum with the tobacco, but it reminds me of this almond cake that I make. And I only seem to make it during the fall and winter months, but it's just this really warm and sweet, but kind of earthy, comforting smell. And it just reminds me of the almond cake, and I would sit in front of my TV watching like whimsical Halloween movies in fleece socks. But also, there's kind of, and the thing about the last one, the Caglioce specifically, it smells, you hear me out, it smells like comforting warm almond cake and sex. And I mean that in the most respectful way, but there's a sexiness to it. Like, it's comforting, but it's also has this sort of allure to it. Like, I would wear this if I was feeling hot. Like, yeah, I'm feeling myself. I would wear this one. The same thing can be said about all three, and that is the fact that they're very neutral. Like, I don't like men's cologne because all men's cologne smells like men's cologne. And when it comes to perfumes, it either smells like something sweet exploded, or it smells like a floral nightmare. And these smell like specific moods, moments, maybe a bit of cigar as well. I'll keep you posted on my head. Let me tell you, headache testing this turned into a 3-day process. I went to sleep with the perfume on my body, and I woke up and I put it on me as well, but I immediately woke up with a headache. I looked outside and it was an overcast day. Overcast days without fail will always give me headaches, so day 1 was a bust. Day 2, at the gym, I increased the weights that I used when I do my weighted punches. So I am a kickboxer, that's what I do. I'm not professionally, but I train in kickboxing, and I add some additional weight sometimes to just kind of like up the ante a bit when I do my weighted punches. That works my delts, and if I strain my delts in any way, headache immediately. And I got a headache the second day, also wearing the perfume. So I took it in for a 3rd day. I didn't do any of those things. Drank a lot of water, the weather broke, no more overcast weather, and I wore the perfume. No headache. So I wanted to make sure that I really tested these thoroughly, because I know how it is when you struggle from headaches or migraines or just scent-induced headaches. They're awful, and they're a nightmare to get rid of. So I wanted to make sure that I really went in, gave it a good test. I even went in a 4th day when I drove my friend to the airport to go back home, and I wore it to the airport because I knew driving there was no way I was going to be able to stop and wash it off, and I was going to be stuck in a car with the smells and incapable of escape. But I did it, no headaches, and I truly hope that this helps, and I want to make sure that I don't coach you into a decision that might potentially cause you future pain. So thanks so much for watching.